That's what I've been waiting for. That's what it's all about. Woo!
Hey everyone, Voodoo here. So in today's video, I'm going to be going over what I think the Havoc talent changes are going to look like. So we have a few things we can do to base this off of both what we have from the blue post and also what we have from just what the dev has said in the Discord. So I figured I'd go over, give you guys what's been talked about, like a little overview, and talk about my thoughts on what I think is going to be changing. We're going to also base off the rogue tree because it's the same dev. So there's a lot of stuff to talk about. Before we get to that though, make sure you like the video, hit the subscribe button, comment down below. Lots more Havoc Demon Hunter, Vengeance Demon Hunter, and other WoW content coming through the patch 10.2 PTR cycle. So follow on for that. Also become a channel member to support me, or use the link in the description for 10% off at checkout with W. So thanks for that. Now let's go over and look at the rogue tree. All right, so here we are with the old outlaw rogue tree. Now I'm using outlaw rogue because one, it's my favorite rogue spec by far. I love outlaw rogue, always have. And two, that's the only reason. Actually, there's only one reason. I just like outlaw. So this is the old one. Definitely lots of problems with it. You can see it's actually a little bit similar to kind of like a Havoc tree in the idea that there's like only 3 branches down here and you're super locked in once you get down here. But if we get out of this and we go over to this one, this is the new rogue tree. Now, I'm talking about the rogue tree because it is under the same kind of umbrella as the Havoc stuff and the Vengeance stuff. The same dev lead is doing rogue rework as the Havoc talent updates. So I'm not going to talk about the spec tree, but if you look at the class tree, a lot more options here. Utility in the top row. You have a lot of options to pick up utility. There's some damage bonuses down here, some survivability stuff up here. But you really can take like whatever you want. You'll have like 18, 17 points to stuff that's like survivability or damage in the top row here. And then you have like 1, 2, 3 points to take utility. Then you can pick your damage down here. So I would expect, honestly, the Havoc tree to look very similar to that, the class tree, sorry. What we know is that the class tree for Demon Hunter is going to be vastly different. He's told us this explicitly, where possible. I'll probably throw up some images, but he's told us this explicitly that the class tree is going to look wildly different. And I'm excited for that. I do think it's going to look more like this rogue tree here. A lot more options, a lot more connectivity. For reference, this is the current Demon Hunter. Oh, can I click it? This is the current Demon Hunter class tree. Not a lot of options in utility. A lot of things are kind of locked in here. Hopefully we'll see some stuff made baseline as well. So I do think there's lots that can be done here. Lots of underused things, lots of things to pass through. But looking at this and then looking at this, like I do feel some hope. Now, I'm not going to talk about the spec tree too much. The spec trees are great, but I wouldn't expect this kind of rework done to Demon Hunters. We know that it's going to be less of a scope for Havoc, and I think that's fair, especially Vengeance too. I think that the bones for these classes are pretty good. There's just like maybe 5 to 6 things that need to be fixed, and if they're fixed, then I think that they're in a great spot, honestly, plus some tuning and stuff. But you know, a lot of added stuff here in these trees, and I do think that something similar to that will end up happening for Havoc. But what we know from Reels is that, let's say the rogue talent trees are like 15 new talents, 15 rework talents. Havoc would be more along the lines of like 5 new talents, 5 rework talents. So obviously the numbers there aren't exact, but you can kind of get like an idea of the scale. So like Havoc stuff would be basically like a third of the stuff done to all the rogues and things, which I think is fine. I know the rogues are pretty down bad. I know that Havoc actually does have some solid bones. A lot of the stuff right now people are complaining about is just tuning. There are definitely issues, and I've talked about them many, many times. Talked very vocally about them, actually. Fell rushing and some stuff with momentum, demonic stuff, fodder, initiative, a few things like that, underused talents. But generally, like the play style and like the bare bones stuff, like talents themselves aren't that big of an issue outside of tuning. So I think us getting like a third of what Rogue got would be very nice. I'd be very happy with that. Now, let's talk about what that could be. So we'll swap back to me here. Hello, hi. So there's a few things that Reels has talked about, and I'll throw it up when I can. So we're going to start with the stuff that's like the most likely to show up. Now, again, I do want to say all of this stuff is just dev previews, just unofficially from Reels himself in the Demon Hunter Discord. So any of this stuff can change, and this stuff probably will end up changing. Also, just throw up a dungeon in the background while I talk so you guys can look at stuff and be distracted. I don't have any Subway Surfers today, but there you go. So the first thing that I want to talk about is called Inertia. Now, Inertia is a property of matter.
Inertia is a property of matter.
Inertia is a property of matter.
Cue the Bill Nye clip. But basically, it's going to be a counterpoint to momentum. Now, this is not fully hammered out. We don't know numbers or anything like that. We don't know if it's going to make it in. But I have, and I quote, a 90% chance for this one to appear, unless someone changes his mind, is what Reels has said. So Inertia is basically going to be in my opinion, a better form of momentum. Oh, my hair's kind of sticking up a bit too. Let me just put that down. That didn't work. Anyway, so what it's going to be is, instead of with momentum, it's like Venture Retreat and the Hunt and all Fel Rushes. Inertia is going to be more of an Unbound Chaos trigger. Now, we don't know if that means that's just Unbound Chaos or if it's going to be Unbound Chaos as well as Venture Retreat as well as the Hunt, or any combination of that. But the idea here is for Inertia to be a stronger damage uptime, like a stronger damage buff, and a much lower uptime. So it's more focused around executing burst windows with this buff. Like, let's say it's 15% for, I don't know, 10 seconds, but you have a much lower uptime on it, rather than momentum, which is like 8%, but you have like a really high uptime on it. But Inertia is probably going to be like a choice note against momentum. I wouldn't be surprised to see that. I'd be like, honestly, I'm kind of expecting that one. That's one of the ones that is probably going to make it in. He's talked about it a lot. Momentum is also going to have some frustrations fixed with it. IP, Isolated Prey, Fury Generation from Fel Rush, is something that's just going to be probably removed. I'd give that like a 99.99% chance. We don't know if the the Fury Generation is going to come back attached to something else. We're not sure. Reels isn't sure. We'll have to wait and see. But you will not have to be Fel Rushing on CD anymore. The big issue with momentum, where you Fel Rush basically on cooldown as much as you can, was more so the Isolated Prey Fury Generation, because Fel Rush had no GCD attached to it. It was like 0.25, but it was just way more efficient than anything else we ever could be doing. So I think that is just a big mistake that's definitely going to get fixed. This in turn will also help with another of people's problems, which is going to be the Cycle and Shattered Destiny stuff. Now, those aren't going away, those are staying. The idea there behind Cycle and Shattered Destiny is for Demon Hunters to extend their demonic buff a little bit. It's not meant to be in the momentum, like the demonic uptime that we have right now of meta with like 80 to 90% where we're just in it the whole time. That's not what the talent were intended to be. That was never planned to be the thing. It's supposed to be kind of a short extension of this thing we want to be in. You know, you use it, you get your extra death sweeps out of it, you get your extra chaos strikes, and then it goes away. It's not supposed to be where if you even miss one single global, you miss one global where you can't get back to demonic, or you fuck up, pardon my French, you mess up one of your demonic windows a little bit, you lose like 60,000 DPS and plummet to the bottom. That was never intended to be that way, and obviously this causes issues for us because, you know, you get a mechanic, you have to go do something, you Fel Rush out of range, and you miss half a GCD out of range. Those are all things that lead to Demonic and Cycle and Shattered Destiny having just this cannibalistic, toxic gameplay where you need to maintain that uptime. You need to have every GCD be absolutely perfect, and there's no spare GCDs at all. I would expect that to be changed. Basically, a lot of that's coming from Havoc's just overabundance of Fury. So I would expect our Fury Generation to be toned down a bit. In exchange, we'll end up getting more free globals. Fellblade will end up probably being used again for our Fury Generation, because right now it's just not used at all. So instead of like an 100% uptime spec where you need to be pushing a button every single time to have it be useful, to have you just not like drop to the bottom of the meters, I would expect it probably to be in the 90s. Obviously, it's not going to be 100% anymore, where if you go away for even a second, you're dead and your damage is shot. I would expect there to be some small gaps in the rotation naturally. Maybe a Chaos Strike here or there, maybe a few here or there, where you definitely want to be getting that uptime to extend this buff, but if you don't, it's not the absolute end of the world. So I do think that looking at the Fury Generation will end up affecting that. Now, personally, I think Demonic should just be removed. I want to see what Havoc could look like without Demonic for like a season or a tier or whatever, but I see why it's not going away. It's very iconic for Havoc. Cycle and Shattered Destiny is something that has been around for a while, and lots of people like it. So I'm not surprised that that's gone, but I would expect to see our Fury Generation toned down a bit and end up seeing that toxic gameplay there kind of fixed. Another thing people don't like is Fodder. Now, Fodder's staying around. Reels has said he likes it. But one of the big issues with it, aside from it turning off Isolated Prey, I have no word on that changing, by the way, so who knows in there, is that it's just very random, right? It's a random proc that's very powerful. 20% is incredibly strong, especially on the buff. It heals you and stuff like that. So the two different changes that have been talked about, and either of these could happen. Again, all this stuff, not guaranteed, not promised. We'll see what happens. But Fodder is either going to go one of two ways. Either going to go into a button and made much weaker to offset the fact that it is controlled now. You can do it whenever you want. Go a button where you still have to like get the soul and stuff like that. or it's going to go into a more prorated, less RNG proc. And what I mean by that is higher chance it happens on pull, higher chance it happens every whatever, like an ICD of 40 seconds or something, which would be good. Lines up the essence break. So while it's not going away, the issues that has with its RNG should hopefully end up being fixed a bit. Again, we're not sure on everything, but it's spawning at the start, or it being like less RNG reliant, or even being a button, are all things that have been thrown around that he's looking into to try. So I would expect some frustrations there with Fodder being how random it is to go away. The evasion stuff is hopefully going to be fixed as well. He's going to look into it where the demon evades for the first few seconds. No promises there though. So that's one other thing. More stuff, initiative, he's looking to see if he can make dot damage and periodic ticking damage from bosses not count against triggering it for you. If you're in raid and you backflip and initiative doesn't trigger for some reason, it's because that in that millisecond where the GCD from VR was going off before you hit the target, the boss had some pulsing AoE that you couldn't really avoid, or you had a dot on you or something that caused it to not trigger. So he doesn't think that's very cool. I don't think that's very cool if those things happen. It should be if you get hit by like an actual ability, not just random pulsing damage that raid fights have to make the boss hard. I don't think that should not trigger initiative, and he agrees. If he can't fix that, he doesn't know where it's going to go, potentially just making it first time you hit an enemy, but again, all unconfirmed stuff. We're not sure. Final few things he's talked about to just end off the thing here. One thing people will be very happy about is he is looking at Netherwalk and Fell Eruption, making them easier to take. One option that isn't likely, but he has mentioned is on the table if he can't figure out anything else good, is to make it be baseline. Now, I wouldn't expect baseline. Baseline would be a dream, obviously, but I wouldn't expect that. But what's probably going to happen is that they're going to be made much easier to take. And what I mean by that is if we look at stuff like the rogue trees, we'll swap back to the rogue trees for a second here. So I'm back here on the rogue tree. If you look at just the top here, so I'm just going to click some buttons. So I've clicked buttons, I've grabbed all my DPS stuff, and then really in this top row here, only 3 of these options are actually damage. So everything else here for rogues, for outlaw, is all just kind of utility. So you can grab lowered hook uptime, you can grab more stamina, you can grab, I don't know, like more defensiveness, grab more speed, and grab like, I don't know, cooldown of blind. So it's all utility up here. So I would expect something like that to come through, where instead of sub is the same way, there's a row of utility here. Assassination is very similar as well. They have some utility stuff around here somewhere, although I'm not sure where it is as much. They actually have a lot more damage stuff on the top of the tree. But you get the idea, where when they have utility, it'll be kind of, you need to take it to path through it. Ret is like this. Most classes that have utility in the top of their tree have stuff like this. Now, Shadow is a bad example because it's here, but you generally don't want to take it. You kind of have to take, so you take all these talents, and then you have like 1 point left over, which isn't great. You can take kick, or you can take defensiveness, you can drop this, take some stuff. Not perfect here. This is kind of a bad example, but same idea. I believe boomies are also like this, where they have, so you kind of have to take solar beam, to go down further. So those kind of things where specs have their own kind of utility that isn't really great for the class tree. Maybe giving Vengeance Fell Eruption or giving Vengeance Netherwalk would be too strong. Then they're probably going to see something like that. A lot of these nodes will be made baseline, and then just kind of probably have us path through these to get more nodes. We'll see. They might go baseline. That's my dream, but we'll see again. The other thing he mentioned is that we have too many 2-point nodes. He's not going to mention where, but I do expect these nodes here to be made 1-pointers, and I expect these nodes here to be made 1-pointers. I'll give us a lot more options on the top of the tree, which will also, again, help us with taking Desperate Instincts or taking Fell Eruption. It gives us more options down here as well, where we would be able to path down into multiple different branches at the bottom of the tree. Now, I don't expect stuff like Soul Rend, Cycle, or Know Your Enemy to be 1-pointers. I think that 2-pointers here makes sense because they're used to limit how many things you can take on the bottom. We'll see if that changes. He's mentioned that he doesn't think Soul Rend should block any means necessary. He's mentioned a few things. So I'd expect these 2-point nodes to be reduced to 1-pointers. I'd also expect these things to be made much easier to take. And then I'd also expect generally a reshuffling of our tree a bit to open up more things. I think I wouldn't be surprised to see a few more capstones. We only have 3 right now, but if you look over at like the new rogue tree, like Outlaw, for instance, they have a lot more capstones and a lot more ability to choose between them. Like if I go here, I can take either this capstone or this capstone. If I go here, I can take any of these three. If I go here, I can take these two. So a lot more options for builds there. A lot of classes are like that in terms of their capstones. Elementals like that with these things here. You can a lot more pathing in the bottom of the tree. I think warlocks are like that too. Yeah, a lot more pathing. Warriors are like that. A lot more options in pathing. I don't think mages are. Mages aren't really. But a lot of other specs are like that, where you have a lot more options in the base of your tree. Havoc is really locked in. Basically, once you're past this row here, so once you take Unbound Chaos, you can't actually get down to the other capstones. All these things are kind of locked away from you. You can get down to like Glaive Tempest, but that's about it. So I would expect some more capstones there as one thing. Those are kind of all the things that like I would expect to see. There's one more thing he mentioned about Fel Barrage. So this was like really just last night, honestly, last Saturday. So I'm recording this on the Sunday. But yesterday he mentioned a new idea he had for Fel Barrage. So Fel Barrage is just bad right now. It's very undertuned. No reason to take it. It's something that I don't know. It's not even really fun in my opinion, anyways. But basically, what the new Fel Barrage would look like is instead of being a channel where you're hasted, you want to use it all, it would end up being a thing where you push it, it's an aura on you, and it acts like a fury dump. So like Breath of Sindragosa. So for those of you who don't know Death Knights at all, that's fine. Go over here to Breath of Sindragosa. This is a thing that's very contentious for Death Knight. But basically, you use it 2-minute cooldown, and you just continuously deal damage every 1 second to enemies in front of you. It uses runic power every time you use it. So basically, as long as you have runic power, you can keep Breath of Sindragosa up. Now, he's mentioned this. It will not be anywhere near as bad as this. Breath of Sindragosa is very similar to stuff like we've had with Demonic, where if you don't keep it up, you're losing all your damage, and the whole idea is to keep it up as much as possible. Fel Barrage will not be that. Fel Barrage will be more like, it's a fury dump. You use it, it dumps all your fury, and maybe you can use some generational stuff to extend it a few seconds, up to like a maximum of 8 seconds or something. So never as bad as something like that, but it's an idea to make it more valuable in AoE, where it's a fury dump. You can still use abilities during it. It just dumps all your fury into damage around you, which I think makes a lot of sense. Could be very interesting for damage outside of I-beam stuff with Essence Break. Could be good for like left-right builds or mid-right builds, just in a way. Not left-right, sorry. Anything with the middle. Just in a way to get more I-beams, because you have an I-beam that's not hooked up to Essence Break. So some interesting stuff there. But this could just be good for outside of meta windows. That's an interesting thing that could happen. So those are kind of all the things he's talked about in general. Now, there is one more stuff. That's going to be the tier set. So tier set right now, don't expect it to change. We'll probably see some buffing to it. But it implies that we're going to see more damage from glaives and more damage from the hunt. Now, the hunt getting more damage to it is not something that is out of the realm of possibility. He's mentioned he'd like to probably make it do more damage. I've also mentioned to him the Relentless Pursuit thing. So right now, Relentless Pursuit is useless. It's never ever taken. Even in leveling, this thing is just bad and not taken. But with the 4-second extension of the dot, it makes it much easier to proc Relentless Pursuit. What this could mean is it could mean that we end up being really toxic gameplay with it, where we use it when all the mobs are about to die, just so we get that initial hit of damage. And we want all the mobs to die in the 10 seconds after we use it, so we get it back. I don't think this gameplay would be very fun. You might disagree with me on that one. But I think it kind of goes against what the point of the hunt is, where you're trying to use it as like an opener into a pack where you get a lot of burst. It also makes the CDR from the tier set useless. So I would expect Relentless Pursuit to kind of be gone or to be reworked in some way, because we are getting to the point where we're probably going to maybe do that if it's strong enough, which would be a really weird thing, but could be some degenerate stuff that we end up actually doing. So I actually will probably test that if it's still around whenever M+ testing opens up, so stick around for that, but we'll see on that. So yeah, so probably more hunt stuff, and then probably more glaive stuff. Like I said, Soul Rend probably won't be blocking anything necessary, but I imagine it'll be on somewhere else. The issue right now is glaives don't have a lot of power in single target, and it's kind of impossible to take stuff that makes them powerful. So we'll see when the trees rework. Again, I'll have tons of update videos on that. That's kind of gonna be it. So that's kind of what I expect to see in the rework. There's the talent updates. There's probably some more stuff. Obviously, he's not playing all his cards on the table. Vengeance Demon Hunter, I don't know what they're going to get. Sigil stuff is all we really know. He didn't really give us any insight to there. So, TLDR, Clash Tree completely reworked. Inertia as an opposition to momentum. Fury reductions to help with Cycle and Shatter Destiny. Fel Rush IP trigger gone. Fel Barrage might be reworked to a completely different thing. Tree restructure. 2-point nodes gone. Easier to take our utility. And then just like hunt and glaive buffs. So that's me for the video today. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I will be live. When's this coming out? Monday. I'll be live Monday night, right around 8 p.m. Eastern, doing some testing, doing maybe some keys on some alts or something. Then I will be raiding this week, so Tuesday, whatever. And then I'll be live again on the weekend whenever the PTR update comes out. So follow me on Twitch below, like the video, drop a comment what you want to see in the rework, what are you excited for. Make sure you hit the subscribe button as well. We are pushing up. Hopefully we're trying to hit 10K by the end of the year. Hoping we can make it. And I just want to thank you all for your support so much. If you want to support me, you can click the link below, become a channel member, or go to W, use code Voodoo10 at checkout, get a little bit off, help support me in that way. So you're all awesome, you're all great, and there's some good stuff on the horizon for Havoc Demon Hunter. I'm looking forward to it, and I cannot wait until the time comes when I get to make a video that we're safe. So thanks for watching, enjoy the rest of your Monday, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.